Good evening to everybody. Welcome to this class today about Vipassana, insight meditation. So as usually, we start presenting a PowerPoint presentation for a visual understanding also of the matter we're going to, on the topic we're going to explain. So therefore, and it is useful for many people to see this also in a visual form and remember what the steps are to be followed. So therefore, those who have already seen this PowerPoint presentation, so they can just skip it if they like, and they can join 1 hour later. That is the time when we're starting practicing. Before practice, of course, I will explain briefly how we can practice this Vipassana. Now, this PowerPoint presentation includes more details and some references to the sutta, which is Satipatthana Sutta, for those who have to have confidence that this information does not come from anywhere else. It comes from the Buddha's teaching in the Satipatthana Sutta. So then they can understand the structure of this method of Vipassana as it is present in Satipatthana Sutta. Those who have already seen the video, of course, as I told you, the presentation, they can just skip it and join 1 hour later. So it is up to you. So we're going to explain about this method, which the Buddha taught in Satipatthana Sutta. So then we must know that insight meditation was first taught by the historical Gotama Buddha more than 2,500 years ago, and it is unique in its kind. In fact, it was through insight meditation that he himself achieved enlightenment and became a Buddha. Insight meditation exists today in its original form in Theravada Buddhism, which retained the Buddha's original teachings. The word used by the Buddha for this meditation is Vipassana, which means specialized, expanded, and vision seeing. That means expanded vision, expanded seeing, or specialized seeing. So this seeing, which is called passana, exposes the truth of the impermanency, the suffering, and the impersonal and unsubstantial nature of all material and mental phenomena of existence. And indeed, Vipassana does not use the usual ways of meditation, but the systematic and methodical observation of material and mental phenomena for the penetration and the actual nature, impermanence, suffering, and not self. So this is called in Pali, anicca, dukkha, anatta. It includes exercise in mindfulness and awareness. In Pali, this is called sati sampajanya, that are used to observe and understand the impermanent, unstable, transient nature of all mental and material phenomena, the attachment to which creates our suffering. The main principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. So therefore now the meditator has to observe the rise and fall of every object he encounters within his own experience. So Vipassana observation is essentially to observe the rise and fall of every observed phenomenon, which indicates how the observation is to be developed to deepen understanding of the nature of mental and material phenomena under investigation. So this whole information about Vipassana, it is stated, it is expounded in the discourse on the four application of mindfulness, which the Buddha has taught. So the Pali name is Satipatthana Sutta, sometimes the applications are sometimes translated foundations. So then in this case, we translate application because you have to apply something. You have to apply mindfulness, your attention, your awareness in order to observe this phenomenon. So we have put here the word applications. So then, and the Buddha called this kind of called this practice in Satipatthana Sutta, which is the Vipassana path. He called it the direct path to Nibbana. This is called Ekaya no Mago. Satipatthana Sutta is one of the most important and widely studied and practiced discourses of the Buddha, acting as a foundation for mindfulness meditation practice, with particular emphasis on the development of insight meditation, Vipassana. It is called the heart of Buddhist meditation. It contains the most comprehensive explanation of the immediate and straightforward way to achieve the Buddhist goal, Nibbana, or in Sanskrit, what we call Nirvana. It is, as the Buddha calls it, the direct path to the realization of Nibbana. It lays down a complete system in order to train the mind to see with tiny precision the real nature of the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and the mental and material phenomena, and overcome the attachment to them. The Buddha begins this discourse with a statement: this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 applications of mindfulness. Why did the Buddha call this the direct path? It is to distinguish it from other meditations, such as the 10 Kasina meditations, the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 6 recollections, Buddhanusati, etc., or any other meditations except Vipassana. This meditation, other meditation, can lead to Nibbana, but not directly, and can lead to sidetracks. For example, all the other meditations who belong to the Samatha part, we do not include Vipassana, so they just reach a certain point, a certain degree of concentration, and that is why they stagnate. So in order to proceed further, one has to practice Vipassana in order to realize Nibbana. So, however, Satipatthana leads directly to the final goal, Nibbana. So therefore, the purpose of the 4 applications of mindfulness is the purification of beings from defilements and so forth. That's why the Buddha tells this direct path for from the purification of beings from defilements. As the Buddha says, for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So therefore now this path leads for the purification of the mind also. Otherwise, one is not able to see Nibbana. So now we're going to explain now the 4 applications of mindfulness. The Buddha expounds in the sutta, and he mentions there are 4 in the number. The first is observation of the body. It is we apply mindfulness to observe the body. It is called Kaya Nupassana. Observation of the feelings. That means we apply mindfulness to observe the feelings. Vedana Nupassana. And then observation of thoughts. We have applied mindfulness to observe our thoughts. This is called Chitta Nupassana. And then observation of mental and material phenomena. This is called Dhamma Nupassana. So therefore now, regarding all these observations, we have to observe the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. And this observation should be done with mindfulness and awareness. So therefore now we have here observation on the body, the feelings, thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. But it is not only this part. The Buddha is going to explain how we have to see the rise and fall of this phenomena. Because all the phenomena are permanent. These are the phenomena we are cling to, we identify with, and due to this, we suffer. So therefore, we have to start to observe what is more obvious to your experience. If you, for example, bodily called processes are more prominent, let's see the breath, you can take that as an object of observation and be mindful and aware of that. If feelings are more prominent, you can take the feelings as object of observation. If thoughts are more prominent, you can take the thoughts as object of observation. Or if mental and material phenomena are more prominent, you can take them as an object of observation. So then now regarding the body, the Buddha is going to explain now how to observe the body. There are many aspects how to do so. So therefore now the Buddha starts first, what is the most gross thing we have within us. Now mind and feelings are very subtle. So, and many people maybe have difficulty to observe them, but the body is something gross. That's why the Buddha starts with to explain something from what is more gross. And slowly is going to explain more subtle things which happen within us, like our feelings, our thoughts, and so forth. Hence, he starts this his explanation first with the body, which is something gross. Many people can understand it better. So, and he says how to observe the body, how to do so. Here, one abides observing the body as a body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. So therefore, this observation, what the Buddha says, it is for one who is ardent. Means he is not sleepy, he is not lethargic. So then one must be therefore ardent, energetic to do so. Otherwise, his observation is not going to succeed. And another thing is to be fully aware. So not to be absent-minded. And mindful also means almost the same. So not to be absent-minded. So in order to make this observation. In this way, one is able to succeed to observe a phenomenon and which he has to examine. So now regarding the body, the Buddha is going to explain how what is the most prominent things in our body, which a meditator can start observing. And the most prominent thing, of course, is the breath. So that's why he speaks about the breath, how to observe the breath in our body, because all the time our body expands and contracts. So due to the inhaling and exhaling of the breath, and somehow it is easy for a meditator to take this movement as a part of his observation and see, examine the body, contemplate the body. So now this mindfulness of breathing, the Buddha has taught as serenity meditation sometimes. So, and in all the Satipatthana Sutta, I can actually practice a serenity meditation. But he also taught it as insight meditation, Vipassanā. And in this part, it is the insight meditation which he emphasizes, how to see and how to observe the body through the Vipassanā eye, through the Vipassanā practice. Now, in our body, we all the time inhale and exhale. We take in breath. And if you take in breath, for example, in order to observe the body, you are mentally not in breath. So in that case, you know what you're observing. So, and for out breath, you mentally note out breath. So this is how the observation has to be done. And so then in breath, you mentally note in breath, and out breath, you mentally note out breath. This can be, in breath and out breath, if you sense it in the tip of the nose, you can observe it in the tip of the nose. If you sense it on the chest or on the belly, you can actually start from these places where it's more prominent and evident for you. So then, although the Buddha explained to be mindful about the body, So now he is going to explain how to practice Vipassana. That is the part which is the central teaching in this Satipatthana Sutta. So therefore now he is going to explain the Vipassana part. So as well already mentioned, the main principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. So therefore, this is somehow the meditator has to see the rise and fall of this phenomenon. This is not that the meditator creates this rise and fall, but if one observes this phenomena, they don't last for long. They start and then they continue for some time and they fall. This is to see the impermanent nature of this phenomenon. So therefore, the Buddha says, one abides observing in the body its nature of rising, or its nature of falling, or its nature of both rising and falling. Here it is how to, the Buddha emphasizes this part, how to see the rise and fall. So, and he is going to repeat this for every object. So then that's why this is the fundamental principle in Satipatthana Sutta, because this rise and fall, he is going to repeat for every object. Although the object change, they are different. That's why I've mentioned the body is different, the feeling is different, the thoughts are different and so forth, but they have a common characteristic, a universal characteristic of this rise and fall. Therefore, the Buddha is going to repeat this rise and fall again and again in this Satipatthana Sutta. Now, for those who know Pali, they can have the reference in Pali and so forth. Now, here, Samudaya Dhamma means the first part. Samudaya Dhamma means, Samudaya means rise, Dhamma means the nature of this what you observe. Anupasi is the observant, he who observes. Kaya is the body, and Viharati means one abides. Again here, Vaya means fall, Dhamma means the nature, Anupasi means observing, Kaya means the body and abides. Samudaya Vaya means rise and fall, to see, it's called both, rise and fall. Therefore the meditator, if he can see the rise, he can see the rise. If he can see the fall, he can see the fall, or he also can see both, the rise and fall. So in this way now, the observation with mindfulness and awareness has two parts. So the first part is what? Knowing the object of observation. The second part is Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, what is the object of observation is the body. So, and then what the meditator has to see? The rise and fall of the body. For example, in the breath, so the meditator can see how the breath rises and falls. Here we are going to explain again. Now for the in-breath, there is expansion. This is the rise of the body. For the out-breath, so there is contraction. This is the fall. Therefore, our body all the time rises and falls due to this expansion and contraction. And this happens because we breathe in air and expel out breath, the air. So, and this happens moment by moment. From the time we have been born till we are going to die, this is going to happen. This body rises and falls. So we just try to see the nature of this body, how all the time the body inhales and exhales, and to observe the rise and fall. And this rise and fall occurs continuously, so every moment, and it is continuous rise and fall. So the meditator can observe this again and again to see the nature, the impermanent nature of this body, how this body all the time changes. So then, therefore now, for the in-breath, you mentally note in-breath. If you observe the what's called, this is the first step, what the meditator has to do. What is the object? In-breath. Therefore, you mentally note in-breath. So, and then go to the Vipassana part, second part, which you have to see the rise. In-breath is the rise. For the out-breath, you mentally note out-breath, and then go to see the fall, which is the expulsion of the body. So therefore now we have mentally note 2 times. In breath, you can mention what's called mentally note 2-3 times. In breath, and so forth. So and see the rise. So for the out breath, it's called you mental note out breath, and then again mental note fall. So this observation can be done in the tip of the nose. So if you feel the tip of the nose, the in breath, so you mental note in breath, as called, and then you mental note also rise. So for the out breath, you mental note out breath, and also mental note fall. So this is how you can practice this. Of course, now in the beginning, you can train yourself just to see in breath, out breath, out breath, and slowly, slowly starting seeing the rise and fall of the in breath and out breath. So you can see this in the tip of the nose or in any other part of the body, on the chest or on the belly. So then for the in breath again, you can see, yeah, you can see in this way, the in breath as rise, the out breath as fall. But you can see that for the in breath, there is rise and fall. Actually, the in breath, when it starts, this is the rise. When it stops, it's the fall. Therefore, in the in breath itself, there is rise and fall, if you want to see more details. So again, for the out breath, also there is rise and fall. If the out breath goes out of your body, it starts going out. When it stops going out, this is the fall. Therefore, now you can see it in the gross way. The in breath is rise, the out breath is fall, or the in breath itself is rise and fall, and the out breath is rise and fall. And you have to mentally note in breath, rise and fall, out breath, rise and fall. So then now this kind of rise and fall, one can observe not only in the breath, but in many other movements of the body. So here, for example, if we walk, you can see how we lift our leg and move it in forward and then place it on the ground. So then if we see, we mentally note the whole movement, but at the same time also we have to see that the Vipassana part, which is to see the rise and fall of the whole movement. So therefore now it is not only telling, lifting, moving, placing, but to see also the rise fall. If we see the rise and fall and give emphasis on the rise and fall, then we also practice Vipassana meditation. So this movement of the leg can be seen in more details. If you want to see more details, that you can see even small movements, there is a rise and fall. So if you lift the heel up and you lift it up and then move it, your leg forward and lower it down, and you touch it and place it. So all the small movement has a small rise and falls. So then therefore, even slight movements, there is called this process of rise and fall is there. So therefore now one can see also how this movement rises and falls from moment to moment. So other ways to observe the body, what the Buddha says, is regarding the postures, the position of the body, if we sit, or if we stand, or if we walk, or if we lie down. So you can see our body all the time changes. From the time you get up from the bed, we walk, we have to stand, we have to sit. So our body can't stand in one position for a long time. It has to change. Now, this changing position, one can observe them, how they also rise and fall. So, for example, in sitting position, one can see that when one starts sitting, that is called the rise. When one stops, one gets up, that is actually the fall. Therefore, every rise, called sitting, has a kind of end. That is the fall of it. So our body can't stay for a long time. There is a kind of duration how our body can stand like that, sit like that. So then you can see there is a rise and fall of the whole movement of the sitting. Standing the same, if we stand, for example, there is a certain limit. So there is it's called a start, that is a rise, and when we stop standing, that is a fall. So therefore, our body has a certain limit how much it can endure to stand like that. There is a rise and fall. If we walk the same, there is a limit how much we can do so. There is a so then if we stop and so forth walking, that is a fall. Therefore, in walking also, you can see a rise and fall of the movement of the walking. Even every step we do, one can observe the rise and fall of every step. So the same way with lying down, there is a limit how much one can stay in this posture. So there is a beginning, but there is also an end. In this way, one can observe that this body also rises and falls, the rise and fall of the movement of the body. So the Buddha describes many other aspects how you can observe our body, the movements of the body. So, but also in other aspects, for example, the elements which we have in our body, for example, solidity which exists in our body, this also changes. So, and then the liquid element which is in our body, this also changes. The heat element which is in our body and the wind element which is on our body. So then one can observe the rise and fall also from this aspect to see all these elements which exist in our body all the time rise and fall. So in this way now, if one observe all this, the body from different perspectives, the Buddha says that actually there is mindfulness that there is the body is simply established in oneself. The meditator can understand there is the body to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. What is the meaning? There is the body. The meaning is there is only the body or a bodily process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to oneself, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. Here it is actually when the meditator starting not identifying oneself with his body, because one see only bodily processes which rise and fall every time, the impermanent nature of this phenomenon. There is nobody there, just bodily processes. And this is for the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called yatha bhuta jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha proceeds and says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. This is the Pali text for those who want to read the Pali. Now, what is the meaning of this? The meaning is independent means not dependent on craving and speculations regarding this body or wrong views about this body. Not clinging to anything in the world, one does not cling to anybody that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So therefore now, by seeing in a very objective way, to observe the body in a very objective way, one understands the impermanent nature of this body, that there is not a single moment we can tell this is myself, because in that moment, that moment past has already risen and fallen. So another way how to observe our existence means our experience regarding other phenomena. It is observation of the feelings. Feelings are very common, which phenomena which occur within our processes, mental processes and so forth. So, and for some people become easy to observe. So they can actually, instead of feeling the breath, they can feel sensations in the body. For that, in that case, they can start observing the feelings, if that is what is more prominent for them. So that's why the Buddha also suggests to observe the feelings if for somebody the feelings are more prominent. So in order to do so, he tells how to start observing the feelings. he says again, one abides observing feelings as feelings, ardent, fully aware, and mindful. So therefore now, these are the prerequisites in order to start. Ardent means one is not lethargic, fully aware, one knows the object one observes, and mindful, one does not forget what one observes. So therefore, the observation of the feelings, the Buddha speaks how there are different feelings which arise in our, mind and body. So there is a pleasant feeling, there is unpleasant or painful feeling, there is also neutral feeling. There are also other feelings which are connected with material stimuli, and feelings which are connected with immaterial or spiritual meditative stimuli. So therefore now, whatever is more prominent, one can start with this feeling and observe it. So even if that feeling changes, one can actually change from unpleasant becomes pleasant. One can observe how these feelings operate and start observing them. So therefore the Buddha says how to start doing so. While feeling a pleasant feeling, one understands, I feel a pleasant feeling. That is understanding. So when feeling a painful feeling, one understands, I feel a painful feeling. Again, when feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one understands, I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. That is to understand it. First, to be aware, to be mindful, what is the prominent feeling which one feels. That is the first step. But the Buddha does not stop there. It's not only mindfulness. We have to proceed and see something more. To proceed and see these feelings with the insight meditation, with insight eye. And then that's why the Buddha says, one abides observing in feelings, the nature of rising or the nature of falling or the nature of both rising and falling. Therefore, here again, he mentions the Vipassana part, which is rise and fall. So in this way, you can see that the observation with mindfulness awareness has two parts. First part, it is knowing the object, understanding the object, become mindful of the object. The second part is Vipassana, seeing as nature of rise and fall. In this case, what is the knowing the object of observation is the feelings. So that is to be aware of it, to be mindful of that. So, and what is the second part the meditator should see is the rise and fall of this feeling. So, in this way now, the meditator does not know only the feeling, but should know also what is its nature, to observe the rise and fall of it. So, therefore, the Buddha says, here one knows feelings as they arise. Yes. So now regarding feelings, what I want to say, it is that some of these feelings, they persist sometimes. They last longer than we expect. So there is a kind of all feelings do not disappear immediately as soon as they arise. They don't fall immediately as soon as they rise, but they stay for some time. That's called, they endure some time. That's why the Buddha says in another discourse that if the feelings are called endure, they stay for some time, one should observe this phase also. In this way, he says, here knows feelings as they arise, as they stay also. Because the time the feelings stay, one should also mentally not staying. Because some of those feelings do not go immediately. One should observe it and tell them staying. And as one should know also as it disappears. So according to this sutta, therefore, now one can actually see that not only the rise, but the staying of the feeling. So then because some of these feelings, they stay for some period of time. Now the breath, for example, we can see that all the time there is a rhythm, rise and fall, rise and fall, rise and fall. But in the feelings, they rise, stay for some period of time, and then only they fall. there is a time duration. Now this time duration, so the meditator can mentally note staying till he can see later that how this feeling falls. In this way now, regarding the observation of the feelings, if there is a pleasant feeling, you mentally note pleasant feeling. That is the first step. But then go and see the rise and fall, staying and fall of it. And mentally note rise when you can see the rise of the feeling, staying when you can see the staying of the feeling, and fall when you can see the fall of the feeling. So if, for example, if there is a, then again, if there is an unpleasant feeling, you mentally note unpleasant feeling. That is the first step. Then go to the next step to see the rise and fall, staying and fall of it. A mental note, rise, staying and fall. So if the feeling persists, so you just continue telling staying, and then when you see the fall, you mentally not fall. So again, if there is a neutral feeling, you mentally note neutral feeling, and then you can see the rise, staying and fall of this neutral feeling. So therefore now we have here three phases the meditator can observe, especially with this feeling which persists, they last longer than one expects. One should repeat the word staying till one can see the fall of it. So therefore now, and by observing this, the meditator understand that there is only the feeling. Therefore the Buddha says, mindfulness that there is the feeling is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. What means there is the feeling? The meaning is there is only the feeling or a feeling process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. So this is for the sake of a wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This again is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then again the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not depending on craving regarding this feeling, or not depending on speculations or wrong views regarding these feelings. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to any feeling that this is myself or what belongs to myself. He just sees these processes going in a natural order. So does not identify oneself with this feeling. So another way how to observe our existence, it is to observe it with the thoughts. So some people actually can, because they have many thoughts, they can do so with this observation of thoughts. That is another satipatthana, means application of mindfulness. If thoughts are prominent, sometimes people have many thoughts. There are many worries, sometimes of anger, desire, delusion. So I can go and observe the thoughts. That is because that is also part of our mentality, of our mental processes. So, and those who have all the time many thoughts coming in the mind, they can't observe feelings, they can't observe the breath. So if the thoughts are more prominent, they can go ahead and observe the thoughts. And then the Buddha shows the way how to do so. So he says, one abides observing the thoughts as thoughts, ardent, fully aware, and mindful. Here again, one should be ardent, fully aware, and mindful. If one is lethargic, one can't do so. If one is not aware, one can't do so. If one is forgetful, one can't do so. So therefore, these are the prerequisites to start observing these feelings, these thoughts. So therefore, he says how to do so. He divides the thoughts in different categories. So then, because there are different thoughts which arise within our continuum, so he tries to specify what are the most usually thoughts who come in our mind. So he says, one understands a thought with lust or desire as a thought with lust or desire. So therefore, if desire is within you, so try to understand it, try to be aware of it, and to recognize it. So, and understand as thought with desire. So then again, one understands a thought without lust or desire as a thought without lust or desire. So therefore, if we have some certain desire, and that desire goes away, then another thought comes, which is without desire. So by observing this desire, not desire, one understands that whenever there is desire within us, there is tension. But if that desire goes, so there is some relaxation, some peaceful feeling. So that is one, as called, understand the contrast between the two, the difference between two. So again, another common thought which comes in our mind is anger. So therefore the Buddha says, one understands a thought with hate or anger as a thought with hate or anger. So, but if that anger goes away, then the Buddha says one understands a thought without hate or anger as a thought without hate or anger. So the difference between anger and no anger is, if there is anger within us, there is tension. So if that anger goes away, this tension goes away, there is relaxation and peace in our mind. So in this way, one can understand the contrast, the difference between the two states of mind. So another common thought which arises in our mind is delusion. So then, therefore, the Buddha says, one understands a thought with delusion as a thought with delusion. Now, delusion means here lack of knowledge, especially, for example, if or you can tell it, confusion in our mind. Especially if a person, he does not know what to do. For example, he's in doubt, he's wondering, shall I do it like that? Shall I do like that? He has lack of knowledge. That's why his mind is in a diluted state, to tell like that, in a confused state. So he's like in the crossroad, he does not know which direction to go. Left, right, forwards, backwards. So that is the mind when is lacking knowledge. That's why the mind is diluted. Other ways how our mind is also diluted, it is when it is worrying too much, a lot of worries, or it imagines things, fantasizing things, or daydreaming. So these are the states of mind when the mind has no direction and is diluted. It's confused thoughts who come and go without any direction. And so all these thoughts are called a thought with delusion. So if one understands that, if that thought is prominent, one can understand it and mentally note it. And then he says also about no delusion, one understands a thought without delusion as a thought without delusion. So if that thought with delusion goes away, then there's another thought without delusion. And if one contrasts between the both, so one can see that when there is delusion on us, there is tension. So, but if that delusion goes away, that tension also goes away. So that is, and some peace arises in the mind. So now this is the part to be first aware of it. And here it starts the insight part, which the Buddha does not tend to be only mindful of these events which occurs in our mind, of our thoughts, but to see them from the perspective of Vipassana, insight meditation. So, and that's why he says, one abides observing the thoughts, the nature of rising, or the nature of falling, or the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, he repeats the same thing of rise and fall regarding the thoughts. Hence, we can see that the observation with mindfulness awareness has two parts. The first part is what? To know the object of observation. The second part is the Vipassana, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, the object of observation is what? It is the thoughts. And the Vipassana part is to see the rise and fall of the thoughts. So then, therefore, regarding the observation of thoughts, if you can't know exactly what a particular thought is, you may grossly understand it as thought or thoughts. So now some meditators, they can analyze the thoughts. Is it desire, it is anger, it is this or that. So therefore now they can start observing the thoughts grossly and mentally note thought or thoughts. You can put in singular or plural. If you can understand what kind of thought this is. Now the mind is very busy thinking of something. One can't concentrate on the breath, can't concentrate on the feelings, but the thoughts are more prominent. So then in this case, one can mentally note thought or thoughts if one can analyze what kind of thought this is. So, and that is the first part. And the second part is to see the rise, staying, and fall of this thought. So in mental note, rise, staying, and fall. Staying because some thoughts, they don't go immediately. There is some time till they go. Therefore, one can see that mental note staying till these thoughts are called stay. When they stop staying, they fall, they can mentally note fall. So therefore now there are three phases which the meditator can understand: rise, staying, and fall, depending on how these thoughts behave. So now if one wants deeper and wants to see what kind of thoughts these are, one can analyze them and observe. If there is a thought with the lust or desire, one can mentally note lust with desire, thought with lust and desire, and then see also the rise, staying, and fall of it. And mental note rise, staying, and fall is called as you actually can see happening. And then if there is thought without lust or desire, you can mentally note thought without lust or desire. And then go and see the rise, staying, and fall of it by and mental note rise, staying, and fall. So if there is a thought with anger, you can mentally note thought with anger. So and then go and see the rise, staying, and fall of this anger, and mentally note rise, staying, and fall. So if there is thought without anger, you mentally note thought without anger, and you can see the rise, staying, and fall of it, and mentally note rise, staying, and fall. So if there is thought with delusion, you mentally note thought with delusion and go and see the rise, staying, and fall of it by mentally noting rise, staying, and fall. So if there is thought without delusion, you mentally note thought without delusion, and you mentally see the rise, staying, and fall of it by mentally noting rise, staying, and fall. So this is actually, now these thoughts may be different. Okay, they may differ from each other, but the fundamental principle here is what? So that does not change. They all have the same nature: to rise, stay for some time, and fall. So therefore, although the thoughts are different, one does not get lost because one sees the same principle everywhere: this rise, staying, and fall. So then, and then the Buddha says, if one continues like that, mindfulness that there is the thought is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. So what is the meaning? There is the thought. So then the meaning is there is only the thought or the thought process. So not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mind, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. For the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness, again, this is called Yata Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. So hence the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is independent, not dependent on craving regarding thoughts and speculations regarding thoughts or wrong views regarding thoughts. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to any thought that this is myself or what belongs to myself. The reason is that as soon as we see these thoughts, they just rise and fall all the time. They are impermanent. There is nothing there who can pinpoint this is myself or what belongs to myself. So this is one aspect how to observe the thoughts for those who have a prominent thoughts coming in the mind. And another way the Buddha says how to observe our existence is with his observation of mental and material phenomena. So then this is he explains in different ways how we can see other phenomena occurring in our existence, so in our continuum. So then I will give only some examples because we can't exhaust all these explanations. So then especially for beginners, it will be difficult to remember all these things. I will limit myself only a certain explanation what the Buddha gave regarding how to observe mental and material phenomena. So then now, and again, the Buddha starts first to explain grossly how to do so. And he says, one abides observing mental and material phenomena as mental and material phenomena, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Here again, the meditator should be ardent, fully aware and mindful in order to start observing them. So I will give examples which are in the suttas, how to observe certain very prominent phenomena we encounter every day. Now, for example, we have sense organs like the eye, and we encounter so many sense objects, like for example here, visual objects with the eye. So because these visual objects we encounter, there are feelings coming. If we see something beautiful, so we feel good. If we see something ugly, we feel bad. Therefore, our feelings depend on these visual objects we encounter in everyday life. So in that case now, if this visual object more prominent, the meditator can see visual objects. These are what attracts his attention. He can observe this visual object. So take this visual object as contemplation and observation, and be aware of them. So that is one part. Of course, the second part is to see how this visual object also they rise and fall. So then again, through the ear, we have sounds, and we know how sounds influence our experience. So if we hear pleasant sounds, we have pleasant feelings and good thoughts. So, but if we hear very unpleasant sounds, we have unpleasant feelings and also some very angry thoughts or sometimes. So in this way now, sounds play a big role for our mental makeup. How we feel, how we think, sounds play a role for that. And the meditator can take sounds as an object if these sounds are prominent. While meditating, for example, you can, if there are certain sounds from outside, you can take them as an object and observe them, how also they rise and fall. So then if these are prominent, so then again with visual object, if one closes on one's eye, one can see some pictures in front of one face or some images, mental images and so forth. These become more prominent. One can take them as an object and see how they also rise and stay and fall. So again, with the nose, there is also smells, and smells play a big role for our feelings and thoughts. So if they are pleasant smells, we can feel also happy. If they are unpleasant smells, we feel unhappy. So therefore, our happiness and unhappiness depends on the smells also, how we perceive them. So then if their smells have become prominent, the meditator can take the smells as an object of observation and see how also they have the same nature, the impermanent nature of rise and fall. So if now we have the tongue also and tests, because of test, we have certain feelings. If the tests are pleasant, we are happy. If they are unpleasant, we are unhappy. Therefore, our happiness and unhappiness depends on the test we put in our mouth and test them with our tongue. So therefore now, and one can observe if these tests are prominent while we're eating, for example, we taste something, so that one can observe this test, how it rises, stays for some time, and also falls. So even the states have this permanent, impermanent nature. So another thing is with our body, so we can touch tangibles, and these tangibles, if they are pleasant, we're happy. If they are unpleasant, we're unhappy. So for these happy feelings, unhappy feelings, so depend many times on the tangibles object we touch. Our happiness, therefore, it is fragile. It can change anytime regarding this object we touch. So therefore now, it's called, one can observe these tangibles, how it's called, these tangibles also have a transient nature by seeing the rise and fall of the feelings which arise due to these tangibles, or the tangibles in themselves, how also are impermanent. So then we have the mind, also ideas. So we cling in our ideas. If our ideas are more prominent, so then one can take our the ideas as an object and observe the ideas, how also they rise, stay, and fall. So then this is how to be aware of this object if they are prominent, of course. Some people are very skillful to observe these sense objects, as called, because their attention is all the time outside. So if you tell them to observe the thoughts, they have difficulty. If you observe the feelings, they have difficulty. If you tell them to observe the breath, it's difficult. But if you tell them to observe object, this kind of sense object, they find it easy. So therefore now, for those who find it easy, they can observe this object. But even other meditators, in due time also, sometimes occasionally, so they can find this object to be more prominent. While you're meditating, if a sound is around and the mind is wandering, can't stay with the breath, can't stay with the thoughts, can't stay with feelings. So you can take the sound and see, mentally note sound, and then you can see its permanent nature, how these sounds also rise, stays for some time and falls. So, and depending on the situation, one can actually switch from one object to another, depending on what is more prominent. Now, explaining this sense object now, or sense organs, we can see all the sense organs also have the same nature of rise and fall. But for the time being, we limit us to explain this, especially with the sense object. So then that is the first time to be aware of it, understand, it's called, be mindful of a sense object, if that is prominent. And now the Buddha is going to explain the insight meditation, that is this part. So Vipassanā part. And he says, one abides observing in the mental and material phenomena the nature of rising, or the nature of falling, or the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, one should see the rise and fall of these objects. So therefore now, this observation with mindfulness and awareness has two parts. The first part is knowing the object of observation. The second part is Vipassanā, seeing its nature of rise and fall. In this case, the object of observation is mental and material phenomena. So to know them, to be aware of them, to be mindful of them, and then go and see the second part of them, that is rise and fall. So then in this way, the Buddha says, mindfulness that there are mental and material phenomena is simply established in oneself. So to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. What does he mean? Why he tells there are mental and material phenomena? The meaning is there are only mental and material phenomena, not a being, not a person. So not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. For the sake of a wide and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness, this again is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and one abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So the meaning is, independent, not depending on craving regarding this mental and material phenomena, and speculations regarding this mental and material phenomena, and wrong views regarding this mental and material phenomena. So then not clinging to anything in the world, it means in the world one does not cling to any mental and material phenomena that these are myself or what belongs to myself. This is meaning that one does not identify oneself with this mental and material phenomena. So now this is the four satipatthana, the four application of mindfulness, as we're told about the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. So all through this object differ. Now we have the body is one object. Feelings are different. Thoughts are different. Mental material phenomena is different area. But they have something in common. And this is because the common thing is that they are called this nature of rise and fall. So because of this rise and fall, this is the meditator can get Vipassanā samadhi, concentration by insight meditation. So Buddha mentions about this concentration by this insight meditation. So, and he explains how this meditation develops. He says, and what is the development of concentration, samadhi bhavana, that leads to mindfulness and awareness, sati sampajanya. So here he says, one knows feelings as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So therefore he says this concentration arises by seeing the rise, staying, and fall. So because this is repeated again and again. Now although the what's called the thoughts may appear now, so or the feelings may appear now, they have something common. All this object, what you observe, it is a rise and fall. That is actually because this rise and fall is repeated for every object we see. So that is something constant. Because it is something constant, the meditator can actually focus his mind on this rise and fall again and again. He gets a certain samadhi, which is called Vipassanā samadhi. It is Vipassana produced through seeing the rise and fall of this phenomena. Again, he gives another example. One knows perceptions as they arise, as they stay, as they disappear. So again, with perceptions, one can see that there is a rise, staying, and fall. That is why his mind has to be focused in order to get this samadhi. And one knows thoughts as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So that is samadhi bhavana, what called the Buddha says, is developed through vipassana. So because this principle of rise and fall is repeated again and again, the meditator does not get lost. So if one sees the called, otherwise he will see different aspects of our existence. But all these aspects have a common, as called constant thing, that is the rise and staying and fall. So in this way now, the Buddha as called emphasizes this part in Satipatthana Sutta to see this rise and fall again in order to get this concentration and to see the universal characteristic of all these phenomena. One should start with whatever is more prominent, and then slowly one can expand his knowledge that this rise and fall does not occur only in particular phenomena, but occurs in every aspect of our existence. So regarding this rise and fall, the Buddha did not speak only in Satipatthana Sutta, he spoke in other parts of his discourses. So one famous book which is in a Buddhist world is Dhammapada. Even in Dhammapada, he speaks about the rise and fall, and he says, even though one should live 100 years without comprehending how all things rise and fall, yet better indeed is a single day's life for one who comprehends how all things rise and fall. And the last words of the Buddha were, all phenomena have the nature of fall. Try to understand this with diligence. So before the Buddha left his disciples, he warned them, trying to understand this with diligence, that all have the nature of fall. So this is from the Digha Nikaya, Sutta Mahaparinibbana Sutta. So, and those who attain the first stage of enlightenment, which is the stream entry, which is Sotapannahood, they also understand this principle. So therefore, for the attainment of the stream entry of Sotapannahood, what is the person who attains this understands? So those who attain Sotapannahood understand whatever has the nature to rise, all that has the nature to cease, to fall. So therefore, in the suttas, we can find many references. Whenever one attains Sotapannahood, he makes his declaration. That is the declaration he does. What did he understand? That whatever has the nature to rise, all that has the nature to cease, the fall. So that is the Pali word. The Pali words the Sotapannas use when they make this declaration. So that is very common to find in the suttas. So this understanding of the Sotapannahood, it is called the eye of the Dhamma, Dhammachakkhu. That's why in the suttas, it's mentioned whenever a Sotapanna becomes Sotapanna, it says that the Dhammachakkhu arose in him. So that Dhammachakkhu is the eye of the Dhamma. That is the eye of the true nature of four phenomena. That is the nature. What is the nature of that? To see, here it is the nature. Whatever is the nature to rise, all that is the nature to cease. So therefore now, that is how one can attain the first stage of enlightenment, which is Sotapannahood. So having seen this truth through the observance of rise and fall, a Sotapanna has severed the fetter of self-identity view or personality view. He does not identify himself with all these mental material phenomena. And also the skeptical doubt, vicikicca, and also the adherence to rules and austerities, with the belief that only these alone can bring about purification and liberation. Now, rules and austerities, the Buddha has put rules and austerities down even for lay people who want to observe them, like ethical rules and so forth. But if one thinks, oh, that will be only enough for me for liberation, that is wrong view. This is only the means. Rules and austerities are certain means. It is actually, if we, so for example, put a program in our life to practice meditation, that program alone is not going to give us liberation. So if we adhere to that belief that only this program is going to give me my liberation, is wrong. One needs to practice further and further in order to attain liberation. So therefore now, a Sotapanna now possesses, by cutting these fetters, possesses the intellect, which is excellent in liberating, leading to the complete cessation of existential suffering. So to summarize up to now what we have told, now in Satipatthana Sutta, the observation with mindfulness and awareness have two parts. The first part is what? Is knowing the object of observation, to become aware of it, to become mindful of it. So that is, but that is not only enough. We have to go to the second part and see the Vipassana. That means to see its nature and rise and fall of it. And then knowing the object of observation, as we have already mentioned, can be the body. So, but even so, one should see the rise and fall of it. And can be the feelings. Even so, one should see the rise and fall of it. And then can be the thoughts. And even so, one should see the rise and fall of them. And can be also mental and material phenomena. Even so, one should see the rise and fall of them. So in this way now, to summarize it as called what we have to already mentioned and for you to remember. So now the observation is on what? On the body. So, and we have also mentioned one can start with the breath. That is more prominent part of our body because it contracts and expands all the time. This is the movement of the body. So it can be the feelings. If the feelings are more prominent, one can switch and go to the feelings. While, for example, one observes the breath, so then one can, feelings arise in the body, some pain and so forth. One can switch and go to the pain. If that pain is prominent, it's obvious. So one can switch, go to the pain. But while it's called observing the feeling. Let's say thoughts come and so forth. Certain thoughts come which are very prominent. One can go and observe the thoughts. So, and if a sound, for example, come, a mental material phenomenon with sound, let's say, so one can go and observe the sound. Depending what is more prominent, what is more obvious, more clear to one's own mind. So therefore now one can switch therefore from, one can go back, for example, if there are no sound, no mental material phenomenon, you can go back to thoughts, if thoughts are prominent. If thoughts are no more there, one can go back to feelings. If feelings are not there, one can go back to the body. So in this way, one can actually, regarding what is more prominent, one can switch and observe this. That is the first part, but the second part is to see the Vipassana. Yes, to see also the Vipassana part, which is rise and fall of this phenomenon. So therefore, you also observe what is more obvious, evident, noticeable to your experience. So if the body, for example, it is more noticeable, more evident. So for example, the breath, you can start observing the breath. If the feelings are more noticeable, evident, and more obvious, you can start observing the feelings. If the thoughts are more prominent, you can start observing the thoughts. If mental material phenomena are more prominent, so you can observe the mental material phenomena. So then you can go back and forth. For example, you can go back to the thoughts or to the feelings, to the body. If nothing is there, you just say with the body, with the breath, for example. So in this way now, you can go back and forth, whatever it is prominent. But as we're told, the principle is the same. So the principle is to see the rise and fall in all these phenomena. So now you can start, for example, with the in-breath and out-breath in the whole body. And mental note, whatever there is in-breath, you mental note in-breath. And then see the second part, which is rise. For the out-breath, you mental note out-breath. And you can see the second part, which is the fall. So then, you can observe this in your tip of the nose, in-breath, mental note in-breath. And you can see the rise. You can also see, if you feel the out-breath, you can mental note out-breath. So, and also see the fall. So that is why you can do that. So just grossly, in-breath as rise and out-breath as fall. And then for the in-breath, you can also see the rise and fall in the in-breath. So because when the in-breath starts, that is the rise. When it stops, that is the fall. Or for the out-breath, you can see also rise and fall. And then because if the out-breath starts, that is a rise. When it stops, that is a fall. And mental note, in-breath, rise and fall, and out-breath, rise and fall. So regarding the feelings, so that is pleasant feeling, as we mentioned, unpleasant, painful feeling, or neutral feeling. So here again, whatever is more prominent, you can see the first part, and you mental note what is the object, what is the feeling, the nature of the, you can name it, mental note it, and then see the rise and fall of it. With observation of the thoughts is the same. You can actually take the thoughts as grossly, just tell thoughts of thoughts, or you can go and see what kind of thought this is. You can analyze it and see if it is anger or desire or delusion. Accordingly, you mentally note it, and then go to the second part and see the rise and fall of this thought. So with observation of mental material phenomena, so depending what is more prominent, the visual objects, sound, smell, taste, and tangibles. So you can mentally note them. If the smell, taste, and so forth, you mentally note it. So if a sound, you mentally note it, and then see how this visual object also rise and falls. So that is how, although the objects are different, actually the principle is one. So that all this phenomena is the rise and fall. If we see only part, for example, you understand only the body is rise and falls, then we can think, oh, feelings are not rise and fall. Thoughts do not rise and fall. I have something permanent in me. So therefore now the Buddha expounded this discourse for us to understand there is nothing a permanent substance within us. We just identify ourselves with these phenomena, we cling to them, and because of that we suffer. We expect this phenomena to behave or to react as we imagine them to be. But because they're impermanent, so many times they don't behave in the way we expect them. So we get disappointed, and because of that we suffer. So by seeing this nature of all these phenomena, one becomes more open-minded, one has this called of kind more equanimity, and does not get agitated, does not get stressed, and so then what is because of the nature of this phenomenon. So this is a brief explanation regarding this Vipassana meditation. In other classes, we have already explained as called other points regarding the Satipatthana Sutta. Today, we're going to limit our explanation here. So then usually before we start the practice, so we allow people to ask certain questions around 5 minutes.